I'm John Oetjens, and welcome to the first of our year-end editions of Schooling Around. While our schools are gearing up for the holiday programs, many of our athletes taking a break, and everyone's caught up in the holidays, I thought we'd take a look at some of the ground we've covered this year, looking into many of our school programs. We'll be back in a moment to start our journey. One of our first stops of the year was early childhood education. Pat Mueller was kind enough to take us on a tour of the OES facility and explain one of their projects.
Come on and join me as I take you on a tour of the Learning Center. We're going to go through the preschool classroom. This is one of our GSRP classrooms. Because it's spring break, we also have extended day students. This group of kids is looking at their teacher. I'm going to keep looking at their teacher. They're making some shoes as part of the shoe project that we're working with Christ the King Church in making shoes for students who live in Africa. We're looking for blue jeans. Somebody will volunteer to sew them together and make soles for shoes. As part of that initiative, these children are also working on shoes to get the idea of what is needed.
Washia Jackson is the head of our early childhood program. She filled us in on federal improvements to the Great Start Readiness Program.
It is a free, and let me reiterate, free preschool program for 4-year-olds, and is paid for through the state of Michigan. Children can come to school, high quality classroom, low student ratios, certified teacher, assistants. It is a wonderful opportunity, and parents do not have to pay anything.
Is this a brand new program, or is it one that's been expanded recently?
It is a recently expanded program. The state of Michigan allocated a lot of money this year to early childhood, which is putting their money where their mouth is, and to our benefit, to the students' benefit. So it's really a great opportunity.
Now, who can take advantage of this?
Surprisingly, this program is really designed for a family that makes about $55,000 a year for a family of 4. So it's not the lower income bracket. And then we have families that can make up to $82,000. We have a 10% spot or allocation that we can save for families that are over income.
So you can. Dr. William Skilling, our superintendent of schools, told us this week that he would resign at the end of this school year. He had some health challenges and has decided there are some other things he would like to pursue. We had the chance to interview him early this year about the business of education. Like it or not, dollars and cents play a big role in our educational system. He gave us his view.
Well, back in '94, under Proposal A, there was 2 main goals behind Proposal A as it pertained to education. There was a private goal too in terms of lowering property taxes and helping businesses and so forth. But in terms of education, there were 2 main goals. One, create competition among schools, because they thought that would improve the quality of schools if we had competition. And 2, take away local control and give it to the states, the state of Michigan in this case. And so how that happens, taking the second one, is prior to Proposal A, 75% of our funding came local. Therefore, there was a lot more local authority over the schools. Under Proposal A, it shifted the funding to the state level, where now 75+% of our funding comes from the state level. Actually, it's more like 80%. So now they have control. As far as competition goes, they also wanted to encourage competition. School of choice became part of Proposal A. And back in those days when I was a high school principal, I advocated against it because what competition will do, contrary to the common wisdom and what seems intuitive, is it actually will create a decay of the public school systems. It will not improve the public school systems. It will actually do the opposite, with particular emphasis in the urban schools. If you look at the urban schools today and compare it to pre-Proposal A, they are a lot worse off. academically, financially, and as it relates to safety. And we knew that that was going to happen because those who could afford to move their kids out would do so. Those who could not or didn't care would leave them there. And this is what we have inherited today. The other problem is it's going to create an implosion of public education. Under the current funding system designed by Proposal A, public education cannot continue on as we've known it in the past. So what do I mean by that? During the last recession, Oxford really thrived, more so than any other probably district in the state of Michigan. And the reason we thrived is because we were able to take advantage of the schools around us who were cutting programs. While they were cutting, we added. Because we added, we grew our student population during the recession by 25%. Well, in Michigan, your funding comes from the number of students you have. But in order for me to succeed, somebody else has to fail. And that's exactly what happened during this last recession.
The subjects of school of choice and virtual education also came up.
There are some limitations on that. For instance, school choice, you can go to any district that touches your boundaries or is contiguous to your county. So for example, we have students that come from Lapeer, and that's a different county. But they are contiguous to us. They touch our borders. Beyond that, no, you can't. However, the day's coming where there will be no boundaries for schools. In fact, next year, we're seeing the first example of that in the virtual education realm. With the legislation that passed, 22F, Oxford now can take students from any part of the state in Michigan virtually. And we have been preparing for that, and we're equipped to do so. But most districts are nowhere near where we are in their preparation and will not be able to take advantage of that. So what's going to happen? Again, we're going to benefit from that financially. It's going to help Oxford, but at another school's expense.
With the virtual system, can students get all the courses they need for high school and take them virtually?
Not only can they get all they need, it's more than that. Oxford Community Schools is the only school in the state of Michigan that allows a student to enter at kindergarten virtually, full-time, and be able to graduate with a high school diploma and an associate's degree.
The touchy subject of Common Core also came up. More on that in a moment. Common Core is a national program supposedly designed to raise our educational standards uniformly nationwide. Dr. Skilling shares some thoughts.
Out. The Common Core was not as well conceived as people project it to be who are behind Common Core. In fact, in the state of Michigan, we don't even know if we're going to offer Common Core next year. We don't even know if we're going to be tested on Common Core because we don't even know what the test is yet. And when it comes to the standards, they're very ambiguous. We really don't know the standards.
Is there a funding risk if you opt out?
Well, we as a district can't opt out on our own, but I'm talking about the state.
Right.
And does the state take a risk? Yes. And this is an example of what's caused a lot of people to be upset with Common Core, is because the federal government doesn't have any authority in education. They are violating the 10th Amendment. And state legislatures and governors who have signed on to this have violated the 10th Amendment and have given over their authority over public education to the national government. Race to the Top was tied to it. No Child Left Behind was tied to this. Schools are going to be penalized because they couldn't make adequate yearly progress anymore, which everybody knew was going to happen. You can't get to 100% of all kids will be proficient at all grade levels. It's just not possible. And so the federal government is dangling the golden carrot over the states and removing funding for education if they don't keep Common Core.
We finally posed the question, if you ruled the world, how would you do it?
I would go back to the way it was originally intended, local control. Local control is what made America great. I mean, there's many things that made America great. If you think of it this way, your educational system will reflect your political and economic systems. Give you an example. China historically has been a dictatorship politically. They've been a communistic economy, and they have an educational system that is top down. No matter where you go to school, it's the same education, the same outcomes, expectations. And one test determines whether or not you go to college on one given day, and no second chances. So that educational system aligns with its political philosophy and its economic philosophy. However, China is changing dramatically. In other words, they're moving more and more towards capitalism. They knew that they would never develop as a country under communism. That's why they shifted more and more to capitalism, and that's why their economy has become robust. With that is coming an educational change. They are no longer saying it's one test on one day to get into college and universities. They're wanting kids to have electives, which they've never had electives before. Okay, now let's come back to the United States. In 1964, we took our first international test on math and science. And those students in 1964 scored 16th and 17th in the world on that test. And people say, oh, we got a crisis. We're way behind the world. But I say, wait a minute. Are we really? What has been the result of those 60-year-olds today? Because they were fourth graders at the time. The results are that generation has solved more age-old problems, created more innovation, created more freedom in the world than any generation in any civilization in the history of the world. And you say, well, how could that be? They're 16th and 17th on the international test. Fast forward to today. We have not changed. Yet today we still innovate. We still export over 70% of the world's innovation. We still get over 50% of the world's international patents, and we're only 6% of the world's population. Now let's compare that back to China. China exports less than 1% of the innovation in the world and receives less than 1% of the international patents. And of the less than 1%, the majority are from companies, foreign companies who reside in China. It's not even the Chinese companies themselves. And same thing with the international patents. Well, how could that be? Because they've got the highest test scores on the international test. Well, when you look at, well, what represents China? You have this one small group of kids in Shanghai who scored #1. Well, let's take a look at these kids. These kids come from extremely affluent families in which they spend over $40,000 a year to have them attend the school. And on average, they're spending an additional $30,000 per tutor to prepare these kids. And these are 15-year-old kids we're talking about that take these tests today. And all of a sudden, that represents all of China? I don't think so. And so when you look at these international tests, you're not really getting a representation of the country. And same thing with these other countries. It's not every student's being tested. It's a slither. And we're ranking all these countries based on a slither of students taking this test. And local control is what contributed to the prosperity of America. Give the parents the say. Do they like the student education, the education their kids are getting? The local community, are they happy with it? If not, they can go someplace else, right? They have choices. They have options.
Next, off to the robotics lab. Back in a moment.
All right, here we are in front of American Legion Post 108 in Oxford. Now, every Friday between 12 and 8:30, they serve up some of the best fish in Michigan. Follow me inside. We're going to take a look around the post. All right, here we are now on the hall side of the post where you can get tables for anywhere to 6 to 30 people. And before or after you're done eating, take a walk around and browse through the second largest military museum in the state of Michigan. All right, now we're over on the restaurant side of the post where most of the fun happens. As you can see behind me, they've got darts, pool tables, 50-50 raffles, and any kind of fish you can think of, baked cod, walleye, combo plates, all right here at your beck and call.
FIRST is the global organization that the Oxford High School robotics team belongs to. It stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. Our team's official name is Torque 2137, and last year they made it to the world competition. We caught up with them as they were getting ready for that competition.
I am the graphic designer for the team. I helped create the, not really like the logos because the logo's already set, but as you can see here, this is just a dry erase board that we took and just put all the logos of sponsors and other teams that we have in the competition, and we just drew it out on a dry erase board. I had to take that and I had to convert it into a vector image, which is basically just like paint, just more in depth. So I had to get all these logos onto a computer so we could print it out, and that's basically what I did for the better half of the season.
So, and what you printed out?
We display it, and it gets us more points for chairmans because it helps describe our branding and show that we are more connected with the community. This right here shows that we are connected with different businesses within the community and different schools.
This one's our practice spot. We built two because we wanted to have time to practice driving, so our drivers could get as much behind the wheel time, I guess, as possible. And then they test code to make sure that like the autonomous and the driving works right. So it's just extra practice. And then also at the competitions we can take the parts off and use them for our competition robot if one of the parts breaks. So we can just come to this one and take it off.
So the mechanisms, like this arm roller is a mechanism that comes off quickly by just taking out a shaft and loosening some bolts. So we just take the arm off of our practice spot and take it with us into our next competition. So that way if our arm, like if the welds break on our competition arm, we have a spare and we don't have to spend time running to the trailer, running to the shop that they provide. FIRST is about taking kids from high school and introducing them to STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they created this atmosphere where you get to build something in a short time period so it's relatable to a real life experience. So we build robots, and we start out by building a robot, and over years we get to build more than just robots. We build problem solvers, we build leaders, we build people that can do anything that they want to do. Talk in public, anything. So FIRST releases the game in January, and so you get the game on the first week of January.
When you say they get the game, does that mean they tell you?
They give the game. There's a day, the first Saturday of January. There's a whole day where they set up a program where you can go to universities or set areas, or you can watch it on a live broadcast. So they talk about FIRST, they talk about engineering, they talk about the sponsors that they have for FIRST, and they talk about all sorts of things. And then near the end, they give us the game.
And what does that mean? They give you the game. Is that your plan or what?
No, they give us the, every year they make a little animation that describes the game. So this year there was what looked like the field made up in CAD and a computer program. So they made up the field, and they made up some robots, and they had them play the game out with some simple instructions on how to play the game.
So by game, you mean a game,
The
a game of checkers. Forgive me for my banality, but that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yes.
You're starting to play a new game, and who are you playing against?
Well, we don't know who we're playing against because there are 3 robots, so 3 teams on every alliance. So at regionals, at the beginning, it's random, so you don't know who you're paired with, and then in eliminations, you pick. So at each competition you go to, the people that you're with changes, and the people that you're against changes.
The team went on to the World Championships. While they didn't take top honors, scholarships were won, and they had much to be proud of. As the lady said, it's about more than just robots. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Connie again from Connie's Kitchen, coming to you from Treetop Lodge, the place where magic happens and unicorns roam freely. Of course, you have to come to the lodge to understand about the unicorn thing, but they're everywhere. We'll be doing a wide variety of cooking shows here on Oxford Community Television, and I personally would like to thank the crew for coming out and giving me this opportunity to share my passion and what I love to do with you from Connie's Kitchen. So please join us on OCTV, join us at the lodge, and look for us all over the town. And if you see unicorns, they probably came from here. See you soon.
The Oxford School District is a K-12 International Baccalaureate district. This means that our curriculum meets certain international specifications that, if adhered to, can result in a diploma that is recognized worldwide. It will also be favorably viewed by most colleges and universities. It's broken into 3 programs: PYP for primary year program, MYP for middle year program, and DP for diploma program. Rita Flynn is in charge of the primary year program. She filled us in.
So the International Baccalaureate Program is a program that is really its best practice, and it helps students be well-rounded individuals, and it helps them be global-minded, and it really makes them relatable to all people. So what that means is that if students are learning about communities, they're not just going to learn about Oxford community, they're going to learn about community around the world. And the reason and the purpose for that is for them to be aware of the community they live in and be appreciative of it, and to also have a better understanding of what's happening around them.
Where does this start in the elementary school? What grade do they start getting involved in some of this?
We have them starting in pre-K. So, they're starting at, even before kindergarten, learning about the IB program at a really early age. So the easiest way to reinforce those characteristics of the learner profile is a good way to start. So caring, open-minded, thinker, being a communicator. We teach them skills that just help them be a good person and help them be well-rounded. So what IB really encompasses in the primary years program are 5 essential elements. So we want them to have transdisciplinary skills, and those skills are communication skills, thinking skills, social skills, research skills, and then we have the learner profile, which is, again, those characteristic traits of being caring and open-minded, and there's a list of them. And then we also have the curriculum piece. So we include, language arts and science and social studies and math and arts. And so we make sure they have language every day. They either have Chinese or Spanish every single day. So our students will be bilingual by the time they graduate.
And what grade do you start the language phase of this in?
Right away in kindergarten.
Really?
At the time of this interview, the kids were preparing for the 5th grade exhibition, the culmination of the primary year program. Rita explains more.
So exhibition is everything they have learned up to this point in 5th grade in the primary years program. So all of the skills, those 5 essential elements, like I said, gosh, they're so rigorous, but they are masters of them by the time they're in 5th grade. So what they do is they get to pick a topic that they're passionate about on a global issue. Again, they've had information prior to this in every other grade.
And I believe there's 9 topics to choose from, is that right?
No, they can pick from any topic, any global issue.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They can pick from any global issue, and we have parents sign off on them because some topics could be, a topic that maybe a parent is uncomfortable with because, like I said, they're global issues, so some of them are very serious. Mm-hmm. So they range from, this group in particular has effects of smoking to child hunger to bullying to global warming. It just depends on really what they're passionate about. And the reason for that is if they have ownership of their learning and they get to choose a topic, they really have a lot of enthusiasm towards their learning. So after they pick their topic, and again, they've had exposure to so many topics since they were a really young age, we really kind of hone in on why they want to pick that topic. And we get support. We don't want just parents to be the mentors of the students. So we go out in the community, and that's where I come in. And I asked the fire department if any volunteers would like to come mentor our students and help guide them in the research. And the research involves having a primary resource. So if we have a student that's studying effects of smoking, we'll find someone that maybe has, had bad side effects of smoking come in. We had a dentist, I believe, come in for your group in particular, so they could ask questions and get their research for their topic. And then they have to pick action on their topic. So not only do we say, well, you need to pick a topic that you're passionate about, we have to say, well, how are you going to make a difference?
Rita explains more about how this phase wraps up.
Ladies here?
Well, after they take the action, they have to do a research project, and that's a big part of the piece too. And then we have a final day, which is on April 24th, which is our exhibition night. And that's where all the students present what they've learned from the guidance of their mentor and the research they've done and action they've taken, and they present it. And so every single classroom will be open, and they'll all be presenting at the same time. So we have around 150 students that will all present at the same time in a rotation. It's got to be, choreographed a special way, which is what we're doing right now. And we start with an opening ceremony, and it usually highlights all the 5 essential elements of the IB program. And parents come, the community members come. We have 4th grade. We encourage 4th graders to come because they'll be doing it next year. I asked Molly Darnell, our middle years program coordinator, to come and say, this is your graduation from the primary years program. You'll now be going to the middle school, and I'm excited to be working with you there. So we really try to make it a holistic event and a celebration of the students' learning.
Rita Flynn goes on to explain how this relates to the middle year program.
When they get to the middle school, they have something that's called a personal project. So here in exhibition, they have to agree on a topic that they want to take action on. So we try to make it so it's just based on what they're interested in, not based on who their friends are, where their friends are going with their topics. So they fill out a card. We start in many different steps. They have a card and they put their top 3, and then teachers will say, well, these 3 students will fit in a group. You're all interested in pollution. These 3 students will fit in a group because you're interested in, talking about invasive species. So they have to, that's the difference. They get to work collaboratively, but individually still, but still collaboratively, get to interview collaboratively, get to take their action collaboratively. When they go to the middle school, they have a personal project, and that's done individualized. So it really prepares them to take all the steps they'll have to do in a personal project, but they have the collaboration piece that will really help them with such a huge
So they're getting
project.
off to a good start.
Yes.
Okay.
Early learning, Common Core, robotics, International Baccalaureate, time to catch our breath. Thanks to Kyle Snage at the controls and Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.